This week on the Inner Reset Talk Show.
You've got to know all the rules to break it. You have apparent leaders. I wasn't one of them. People would just attach me as the wife. So I'm like, okay, I have 40 days to get this right. Let me do this.
Today, I am delighted to have Randhula De Silva with me on the talk show. Randhula is a truly daring soul with a flair for adventure, which is beautifully reflected in her colorful career path, which ranges from film production, the publication of the Faculty of Sex, to supporting entrepreneurs bring to life innovative solutions through her work at Hatch and as the founder of GoodLife X. Randhula thrives in the unconventional, and she is passionate about disrupting the old to bring in the new. At a time when everything is so uncertain, we can definitely learn a lot from her about not only embracing change, but learning from it, thriving in it to create a new regenerative economy. So to start with, I wanted to just talk about your story and how you started out. What was your first job and how did it lead you down all these different fields?
I think my first job has absolutely nothing to do with where I am today. That was something that I did when I was 19 years old, right out of school, when I was an intern at a call center at Citibank.
Wow.
So this is something that I wanted to do, not join a bank, but do some kind of a job. Is something that I wanted to do soon after I left school. Because I had no intentions of really, getting into university or no expectations, honestly, that I would get in. And I wanted to right away get into an environment where there was a larger society that allowed me to learn. I think I was there for about 11 months and it taught me a great deal of things, I would say, not about a particular career path that I would pursue, but about really being professional. So I think the ground rules and the foundation that I have of all the professional ethics of working in a highly professional environment, I received at a very, very early age. And I think you've got to know all the rules to break it. So I think that foundation really helped me to understand how should systems be, how should systems not be, and how do I really build things that can form bigger change.
And then you also said that you had a lot of different passions when you were in school. And then what's amazing is that you've managed to fit a lot of different passions of yours into your work. So how did that whole journey happen?
That to this, I think what drew me back then too was the unknown, the creativity, things like astronomy and chemistry and science, and then art as well. I ended up doing economics and commerce for A-levels, and that too because economics was a fascinating topic for me. And the combinations I wanted to do either in arts or in science was not possible for a student back then in our education system. So I'm like, okay, done with all of you, done with all of these combinations I want to do. I'm just going to do economics because I really love it, and whatever else combinations that I have to do because that's what the system tells me to do. But it's also what you make out of it. So just because I did management and finance in university and specialized in business economics doesn't mean that I was appealed to do a corporate job or play a typical manager role as the obvious next step would have suggested. But I always made choices and try to raise my hand to do things that were interconnected and appeal to my passion and the calling that I had, in order to make the changes that I wanted to change. So I think having diverse passions also upskilled me to work with very, very diverse communities and people. And in that way, you understand how different people relate to different things and how different things mean different things to different people. And this is really the strength that you carry on in life, regardless of what profession you're in. Whether you're in entrepreneurship, whether you're a doctor, an artist, it doesn't matter. You work with people, you work for the people. And I think having these multidimensional experiences of different subject areas and disciplines helped me really, I think, be more and more empathetic to different types of people and communities. And I think that I use until today in every work I do. I never was the girl who went after certificates, awards, medals, none of that. I've never seen the light of a prize giving in school ever. And I ended up becoming the head prefect in school. And that too was a surprise to me, because that was not something that I worked for or worked towards. I was in a million societies, yes, because I was passionate about a million things. But I wasn't an academic high performer. In every batch, you have apparent leaders. I wasn't one of them. But I think when I was bestowed this role of head prefect that I didn't expect or work for, it pushed me to embrace the leader perhaps I had in me, or to grow it in me. And that stayed. And I'm glad. So after I became the head prefect, that gave me so much of nurturing of, becoming a public speaker, becoming a leader, working with people who were so diverse, sometimes who didn't even want to work with you. Prefectship happens before A-levels in our school culture. That not many head prefects who play that role pass out with 4As or get into university. And I overheard 40 days before A-levels that one teacher had said, oh, Randhula would only come to the prize giving this year just to give her speech as the head prefect. I overheard this through one of my friends, and I was really hurt. But I also, when somebody tells me that I would fail or I can't, that gives me like a double dare, which makes me want to really double it down and do it. And I'm like, okay, I have 40 days to get this right. Let me do this. That was my experience of preparing for A-levels. So when someone prepares like that, I had absolutely no expectations. And after doing the papers, when I came home and wrote down what I expect, according to the answers I've given, I think I expected 2 Bs and a C, or B and 2 Cs, or whatever, something like that, and never 4 As. And when my father said, hey, guess what, you've got 4 As, I'm like, shut up. No, that's not my results. I'm sure you like mixed my index number with someone else's. So yeah, didn't expect it, didn't work towards it, but I'm grateful because it changed a lot of things in my life and brought me to where I am, I would say.
Yeah, like I feel like you're really empathetic, but also very open to new ideas. So was this something that you always had, or was it like your upbringing, which was very open? Like how?
I think I've always been excited about new things or unknown things. I've always been curious, let's just put it that way. Possibly because I'm an only child and I grew up alone. Most of my childhood was spent in solitude. And with books and with a lot of nature, like I was the typical Jane. But I think that and the nanny who looked after me when my parents went to work, who nurtured me with a lot of folk stories, a lot of local roots, and the culture that she gave me. Is something that I carry that perhaps sometimes even my mother doesn't, because she was a working woman all her life, and I spent more time with my nanny, who was extremely local, and who was there like from my 3rd month of since birth to my 19th year in life. So she had a massive influence of who and what things I associated when I was growing up. So all the folk stories and all these poems and local heroes, these are things that I think I associated when I was growing up with. So I don't know whether it's a combination of all of these things that made me curious, but I think I was blessed to be let alone. So that I could really let my curiosity and let my imagination run wild, and there was nobody to tell me no. So Faculty of Sex is something that came about firstly as a book in 2017, I think. And then it came about as a series year after year. So there was a trilogy. So there were 3 books that continued as a novella series. And I think midway last year, Chintana decided to step out of his career. So both of us took 2 daring decisions because of COVID or influenced by COVID. And for him, it was stepping out of his career as a creative director in advertising and to fully dedicate himself to building the work around Faculty of Sex. So that's when all of this work around developing a digital platform around it to what it is today came about. And that's something that I've helped since the inception of writing of the book, from playing the role of an editor and now to playing the role of a co-founder of Faculty of Sex. And it's interesting because doing this work in Sinhala language opens so much of doors into how people respond, react to these kind of topics in our mass psychology or in our mass society. And I remember on the first time when the book was published, it was out there in the Colombo Book Fair. And I was there sitting in a stall on a side trying to see, okay, what kind of people are actually taking this book off the shelf, because the cover itself was very, very daring. And it was the first Sinhala book that was claiming to be the Sinhala Erotica. There's been so many eroticas before that, but nobody claimed to be an erotica in itself, right? So this was the first. So, and it has the word sex in front. It had BDSM stuff on the cover, and for a Sri Lankan, it takes guts to take it off a shelf and say, I want to buy this and carry it home. There was one particular lady I remember buying this who was in a sari, possibly doing a normal job, and she had a couple of other books in her hands, and she just took it off the shelf and hid it inside the other books when she took it to the counter. And that was quite an interesting observation, I think, is what made us want to continue to do this work, continue to advocate for this work in Sinhala. And it's been rewarding.
I think it takes a lot of guts and to even do this kind of work, because there's so much stigma attached to it. I don't know whether you had like a lot of negative backlash, and how did you deal with that?
I had a lot of, I mean, come to think of it, now it's funny, but and also to the negative backlash is twofold, right? One is the societal backlash of just, representing this. And then the other is in your career, because this is not your career. This is not the first and the foremost thing that you do. You have something else that you're doing. Also, not just as my day job, but as something else that I believe in too, which is bringing prosperity to everybody in Sri Lanka through economic development or giving access to resources. And in those contexts, you meet different people. And I wouldn't find fault with anybody for treating it this way, because these are stigmas we all grew up with, especially in a culture like this. And I think it's common to any South Asian country, and it's not only common or something particularly inherent to Sri Lanka. The societal backlash was whatever. Chintan is also very active on social media, and he's also a blogger, so he has his own profile. And whenever there was something controversial that he would speak out, people would just attach me as the wife, or what would it be like to have your wife do this, that, and the other thing. And I think I didn't react to it at all. It didn't matter to me. I didn't respond, and I'm glad I didn't. I would never, because it's honestly irrelevant. Two, I know that it's an act of objectification, act of really playing into their own agenda or their own psyche, and that's not the work that I'm here to do. So that's number two, why it's irrelevant. Number three, these people are coming from a place where it's hard to absorb. It's something different. It's something even weird. So you can't counter them with hate or even with their own language. The only way to counter them is to get them on board on this side, and to do that, you have to just continue doing the work. So that's how I passed on such comments or engagements. But on the other side, professionally, I was attached to the donor sector or the donor culture. And there was different people that I would associate from different organizations or different backgrounds. And there, nobody spoke to me like this in person, but I know that there was so much of undercurrents of stories saying, oh, this is a biography, this is the character, this is that, and this is this. Again, addressing these things, at least for me, the only way to address these things is with the quality of the work that you do and the integrity that you do this work with. So I think I held myself in a very transparent position and conducted in a very professional manner in everywhere that I've worked. So these stories were just merely stories. Didn't even last a month, right? So I think truth stands the long game. And so that was fun, actually. But I think also having the right support, the partner obviously helped a lot. And he was in the same space. So it was helpful to have a supportive partner to talk these things out with. But on the other hand, I would also give kudos and hats off to my parents, because I can only imagine what they receive from their relatives and, the conventional most societies that they represent and are part of, that I respect too. It's not easy for them to bite the bullet, and it's not even fair to sometimes ask them to bite the bullet just because, we believe in this or we believe in advocating these topics. But I think my parents are so cool. And they were nothing but supportive. And I think none of the things that they got ever came to me. So I'm very thankful for having parents who are of such a supportive mindset too, because it's important how your friends and family holds you up. But I think they both couldn't, or I don't think they still do, understand most of the things that I do or why I do it, but they trust my choice. And if there is a mess up, everybody messes up, everybody screws up. Still, there's no finger pointing. There's, okay, we got this wrong, how do we make it work from here? And that attitude, I think, is important for any child to have. Especially in our societies, because they're closely knitted, right? Just because we turn 18 doesn't mean we leave our parents. We continue to have such close connections and relationships. So to have that understanding, to have that grounding is extremely important to be in a right state of mind more than anything. So I think they've been nothing but supportive.
I agree. Like, I think with parents, especially with mothers, almost like parents take on, there's this expectation that whatever your child does, your parents are responsible for what the child does, because it's like the values and the ethos you passed on to them. Yeah. And for parents, I think, because even with my mom, for them to just allow you to do, even if they don't understand it, and to make the mistakes which you need to make, it's yes. It takes a lot of maturity. Absolutely. In parenting as well, to just let your children flower and make their mistakes, learn from it, and figure it out on their own.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you see my mother, she's or anybody else in my family, I think she's the proper Sinhalese Buddhist woman, right? Long hair in a bun, wearing the kandyan, epitome of the stereotypical proper Sinhala Buddhist woman, and she really lives to those values even to date. I grew up in the temple until I was 19. We associated our religion very, very closely, and my mother still does, and so does my father. And for people like that, to still let your only child, who is a girl, explore subjects and topics of her heart's content, and to make choices that they wouldn't usually make or they don't understand. I think it takes a lot of belief and a strength. So yeah, I can't say how much I am thankful for all of that.
How do you balance your personal and professional life, where most of them find it difficult to spend time with family due to work commitments?
I choose only things that I really, really want to do, which means I also have to say no to a lot of other things that I really want to do. But I think a book I read earlier this year actually changed, I would say it's changed my life in a certain sense. It's called The Essentialist, or The Essentialism. Is where you say, where you believe that in order to really do exceptional work and to create true impact through your work, you really have to choose what you really want to do and say no to a lot of other things that you really want to do, regardless of how good those opportunities are, or how good those people are, or how good those encounters are for you. Last year, there was a year of awakening where I've taken in so much, because all those things and all those people are visionary people and visionary projects that were essentially geared towards creating the change that I believe in, which is a much more profound, innovative society with an open mind, and with freedom to thrive as entrepreneurs or as artists or as individuals, right? So I've said yes to a lot of things, a lot of boards, a lot of projects, and I mapped out all of these involvements, and there was so much, and then I had to sit down and think, no, I have to be true to their work, and I have to be true to my work. And if I can't give 100% to each of these people, I'm not doing right by their cause, and I'm not going to be doing right by my cause. So I reached out and spoke to a lot of them, and they understood and they valued and appreciated that honesty. But when I reached out and said, look, I'm stepping down from this role, but I, as a person, am always accessible to you. When you have a question, or this board has a question or connection you want me to make, I have nothing else to gain. I don't want a title. I will still do the job. Just call me when you need me, without me having to go for all those meetings that were recurring, right? So that worked out really well. And I think, again, it's what you value. Is it having so many titles next to your name? Or is it really creating a career that is deep and meaningful to you? So weighing those choices is what I did, and still I do a lot, and I have a lot going on, but I think it's half, in terms of at least a list, it's half than what I did last year. Letting go of certain things and saying yes to certain things is important, but it's still not easy, because when you're a passionate individual towards your work, you give your 200%. And that's why I always try to have breaks, chunks of breaks, and often have those chunks of break. If I have a really intense month and I know that I would need a really good, strong, deep, long unwinding period, and I'm going to do that. That is priority, regardless of whatever else is going to come my way. I need to recharge, and I will do it. So that's for my personal well-being, and I need a lot of alone time. So I think the solitude I had as a child stayed with me. I'm an introvert, even though I'm a very vocal person. And I recharge. I like to recharge alone. So I enjoy traveling alone quite a lot. In terms of family and work-life balance, I think, again, having a supportive family, having a supportive partner is extremely important. A partner and a family who understands the work that you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. So I'm very blessed that way, because I have very deep and constant conversations with my partner about the type of encounters and struggles that I have in my work life too. And every day I think I carve out time in the morning and in the evening to spend the time that I would shut down and spend the time, regardless of how tired or how crazy my day was, to give that to my family. And that's not an easy thing to maintain. And it's easy to get distracted by what needs to be done in terms of work or in terms of your mission. And I think the small things we do together, nurturing for our garden or writing these books, editing his books, those are all things that we do together to spend time together. So I think we carve out different projects that would help us to work together.
Coming up on the next episode of the Inner Reset talk show.
I don't think there is a home. I don't think there is a passion. But there is a calling. In the right hands, uncertainty is opportunity, always. Nobody's got anything to give you. Nobody's your mama. Sometimes you've just got to jump into the unknown to grow yourself a pair of wings.
Thank you for joining the Inner Reset talk show. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like and share this video, and follow us on Instagram. See you next time.